Okay, good afternoon and welcome to Iyun Shulchan Orach Yomi. Today, Siman is Siman Yud Gimel. We're talking about basically halachas about going out with your sisters on Shabbos. Banning talis gadol, your big talis that you wear outside on top of your shoulders, talis katan you wear underneath your shirt. Basically, you're allowed to go out with these things on Shabbos, even if Shirabim, even though there's no Eruv, as long as you have it's mitzvah kehilchasa, it has the proper stitches. If one of the corners of your garment is missing stitches on that side. So we learn Ma'akmin Zed Zed, Shulchan Aruch says you need four or nothing, four or bust. If you don't have all four, even if in that fourth one you're just missing two strands, right? You can't make a de'aniva, you can't make a knot in that strand, so you lose that side and you lose the mitzvah of tzitzis, and you can't go out with that. I also say in the Shulchan Aruch that if you find out to happen to be in Sharab or in a Carmelist, if you're in a Carmelist, which is an Isser Rabbanan of Hotzah, and you see your beged doesn't have tzitzis on it, you don't have to take it off because it covered up brios. By an Isser Rabbanan, human dignity surpasses an Isser Rabbanan. If it's an Isser D'Oraisa or you're Sharabim, you would have to take it off. And similarly, that's only on Shabbos, where it's an Isser Rabbanan. During the week, there's an Isser essay. The Mishnah Berurah makes clear the Isser essay, not just a neglecting a mitzvah essay, there's also an Isser essay to wear your tzitzis without tzitzis on, to wear a four-corner garment without tzitzis on it. So because that's an issue d'oraisa, so therefore you have to take your tzitzis off, even though it's publicly humiliating to do it in public. It's very embarrassing. You have to do it because covered of brios is only dochen issue d'rabbanan, like the Gemara says in Shabbos, but issue d'oraisa, the Gemara says in Brachos on Daf Yud Tet, ein das v'neitzah tun naged Hashem. You're wearing kilayim, you have to take it off. Now, I want to distinguish between this mitzvah essay and the Isser essay. It seems there's two things going on over here. There's a mitzvah to wear the tzitzis, and there's also an Isser essay. Where are these two things learned from? So, if you go back to the Torah, there's two times it mentions the mitzvah of tzitzis in the Torah. One is in Sefer Bamidbar, which we say at the end of Kriya Shema, the third paragraph of Kriya Shema. Every Daber Bnei Yisrael Mar Lahem Azulahem Tzitzis Sankan Pei Vitem L'Rosam and Asnu Al Tzitzis Akanaf Psil Tcheles. Etc., etc. We know, we're familiar with that. But also there's another pasuk that says in Sefer Dvarim, it says where we learn Esei Docha Los Esei, where it says Beged Lo Silbash Beged Kilayim Shatnes Semer Pishtim Yachtav, and then the next pasuk says Gedilim Tasalach, which is a reference to tzitzis. That even though you're wearing your tzitzis and the tzitzis are composed of kilayim, it would be okay because the Gemara and you've almost learned at the beginning of almost Esei Docha Los Esei. Esei is Docha Los Esei. First of all, the second pasuk doesn't say the word tzitzis; it says gedilim, a different word. So based on yesterday's Iyun Shir, we learned the Gemara in Sukkah on Daf Tet that it seems to be from Rashi and Sukkah on Daf Tet, and maybe in Membez in Menachos, the same Gemara, we pass like Rav and not like Shmuel. Forget about Tviyah, Lishma, and things like that. Gedilim is really making knots. Knots that Shulchan Aruch and Siman Yud Beis refer to the knot portion, right? You have if you look at your tzitzis, you have the string portion, and you have the upper third, which is knots and winding around, separated by knots. 5 knots, 4 winding around, total 40 winds. Kishem Hashem. That's 1/4. That's called a gedil. Shulchan Aruch is a gedilim, gedil tasalach. So basically, from the Gemara, it says kotzin. Atzul min hakotzin. Umin ha. Get the other lashonos in the Gemara and Daf Tet in Tedam and Aleph and Sukkah seems to say that you're not supposed to make the tzitzis out of leftover strands. When you make a beged, when you make a strong garment, so you have to close it off. You have to finish off your stitching. And if you have leftover stitching and you try to knot that into the completion of your fabric, that would be a problem. And that's what the Gemara is saying over there. You have to make it in a professional way, to close it off in a professional way. And that's gedilim. Gedilim is not a reference to things. Tzitzios, is a lashon of hair. The Gemara says, Tzitzei Roshi, one of the Nevi'im says, the Gemara in Shabbos, and Daf Nun Hey, or Nun Vav, Nun Daled. One of the Gemara says over there, one of the Nevi'im says that Hashem grabbed them kilu by Tzitzei Roshi. It's reference to strands of hair. You look at the tzitzis, our tzitzis are like tassels. They're hanging down. That's the word tzitzis. But the word gedilim is a reference to the edges of your beged that you have to make in a professional way And I suggested yesterday you have to make it in a way which is shua tavi vanuz, like the Gemara says by kilayim, where it's finely combed and it's spun very well and it's wound properly. That would be part of the mitzvah. Making the beged is in the beged. It's in the beged. So there's two din by tzitzis. That's din in the beged, and that's learned at a gedilim tasalach. And then there's a chov on the gavra where we learn in the pasuk dabra b'nei Yisrael mertahem mesulahem tzitzis akan fevig dehem. So one is din in the beged, right? The pasuk in Devarim din in the beged. Make it in a professional way. Make it a four-cornered beged. Once you have that four-cornered beged in favor of a midbar, we learn that you should make tassels. You should make strings coming down from it. So those are the two mitzvahs of tzitzis. So I would venture to say that, and it only mentions tchelis in one of the parts. Gedilim taslach makes no mention of tchelis. And tchelis is only mentioned in Sefer Bamidbar when it's talking about asulahem tzitzis, psil tchelis. You should make a psil tchelis also. So I would say that the mitzvah of tchelis we see clearly from the Shulchan Aruch over here. In Siman Yud Gimel, that technically if you go out with tzitzis, even without tchelis, if you don't have tchelis nowadays, you're still mekayim mitzvahs aseh of tzitzis. The mitzvah aseh of tzitzis, tchelis is a mitzvahs aseh, meaning it's not an isser aseh, meaning it's considered like a bonus, like mitzvahs aseh is like, eat matzah. I don't know if you'd violate, if you don't have matzah as an onus, you don't have matzah, you wouldn't get an aveira for doing that. You're just right. Nenas v'lasa mitzvah kilu asa. Same thing over here. By putting the tassels, putting the tzitzis on the edge of your beged. Like we do, we put tassels on the edge of the beged, and we also tchelis is mentioned in that parsha. Tchelis also would be it's like icing on the cake. It's like a mitzvah essay. If an onus happens, unforeseen circumstances, you're not responsible for that. You don't get an avera for that. So therefore, I keep paskin in Yud Gimel here and Siman Yud Gimel that you can go out with it on Shabbos, even though there's no tchelis. You're still mekayim mitzvah essay, and it's still considered part of your beged. However, there is an isser essay if you don't do the gedilim. If the beged is not made right, there's a chovas gavra, which is the mitzvah's essay, and chovas beged, which is gedilim tasalach. It's going on. It's classifying the beged. It's talking about the beged. It has to be made in a professional way. The edges, the corners have to be made in a professional way. It has to be made in a way, and even it's suggesting, I believe the Gemara, the Torah is suggesting it should be made shua tavi v'nuz with kilayim, with samari pishtim, which linen and wool together make a very supple, strong yet supple corner of a beged. I suggested it's referring to a specific type of beged or underwear, thongs. For men and women. Women, there's also a mitzvah of tzitzis. And that's an isser essay, and we know that because it says essay docha losa essay. The essay pushes away the losa essay. If it's just a mitzvah essay, it's a midas chasidus. It's a good thing to do. If you don't do it, you're not responsible. Who's to say it has the force to push away an isser losa essay? It's more likely to say the essay docha losa essay. Well, not only is there just a positive mitzvah, but if you don't do that positive mitzvah, you're doing an aveira. So that's why it's docha. It pushes away the losa say, because it's so integral to the mitzvah that you need to do it. It's a chiyuv. It's not just a mitzvah. There's a difference in a mitzvah and a chiyuv. The Gemara says in certain places, sometimes it's called a mitzvah, right? And etilas yadayim a rishonim mitzvah. Mayim achronim is chova. It's a chova. It's an obligation. If you don't do it, you're losing out on something. You get an aveira for that. So the dint of that, the force of that, is able to push away the losa say. And that's integral by the beged itself. You have to make the corners of the beged when you're making what you're wearing. Torah is very makbid to make sure in a way that's going to fit you and it's going to be strong enough and supple enough and bendable enough to fit your body properly. And that's gedilim tasalach. That's the isser essay over there, and that's why the Shulchan Aruch Paskins over here, Mishnah Bura says, based on the Ramah, that this halach only applies on Shabbos, that you don't have to take off your beged if you realize it doesn't have tzitzis. During the week, though, there's an isser essay. Based on what I'm saying, it would really not apply to the tassels, which we use as tassels. Those are only extraneous things. A mitzvah essay, not an isser essay. If it's the gedil, if it's the actual the border of your beged, it's becoming undone. I'm suggesting a totally new thing over here. That part of the mitzvah of tzitzis, one of the main mitzvah of the tzitzis, is in the beged. It's in the beged, not on the tassels attached to the beged, but just to make a strong beged for your clothes, for four-corner garments, have to be strong. It has to be strong and supple material, and that if you don't do that, you're violating Isser Essay, wearing a four-corner beged that's not made like that. You also are supposed to put on tzitzis on that. You're neglecting Mitzvah's Essay. If you don't make it the beged in the right way, then you're not only neglecting Mitzvah's Essay, you're also violating an Isser Essay, which is a problem. So it will come out for us with our with our tassels. As long as the corners of our garment are made in a proper professional way, it wouldn't be a problem. And even during the week, technically, there would be no Isser Essay, and technically you wouldn't have to take it off if you realize there was no tzitzis. No, because our tzitzis are really just the mitzvahs. I'm saying it's the tassels. Maybe the idea is that on the edges of your thongs, whatever, the underwear, you should put tassels and a blue string, a waistband of the blue string, siltelas. This is obviously a little more of a drush over here, what I'm saying, but basically, I'm suggesting a new chiddush over here that one of the main mitzvahs is on the beged itself, not on the tassels that you attach to it, but the beged itself. That would be a big chiddush, and that would be the Isser Essay. For us, it would never be an Isser Essay, so even during the week, practically, you would never have to take it off because of kavod abrios, human dignity, would not force you to take it off, unless there was actually a problem with the beged itself, but what the fabric wasn't made in the proper professional way. I hope you enjoyed today's shir. See you tomorrow.